Shuichi Shigeno's new manga has finally started serialization. I made a quick overview video about what Subaru and Subaru is right after it got announced, but right now we have 5 chapters out, so I can go way more in depth. I want to quickly go over MF Ghost first, since Subaru and Subaru takes place very close after that, so be aware of some small insignificant spoilers. MF Ghost takes place about 30 years after the events of Initial D. Self-driving electric cars have replaced internal combustion engines for everyday use. An organization named MFG, formed by Ryosuke Takahashi, organizes street races for combustion cars of any power. MFG has a few regulations, but the most notable and important one regarding Subaru and Subaru is the grip-to-weight ratio. This regulation requires heavier cars to have wider tires to ensure a fairer balance. The anime and manga cover the 4th season of MFG, where a rookie named Kanata Katagiri, who is the student of Takumi Fujiwara, enters the series. He drives a Toyota GT86 that he got from his friend Ogata. Subaru and Subaru takes place presumably at the start of the 5th season of MFG. We start chapter 1, called The Ghost of Akina, off at a gas station where we are reintroduced to the Speedstars, Iketani, Itsuki and Kenji. We see them talking about a real ghost on the Akina Pass. Iketani and Itsuki don't believe it at all until they see several anecdotes of its sighting on the internet. Meanwhile, at the top of Mount Akina, we see Bunta in his new Subaru WRX smoking a cigarette, when a young girl drives up to him in a Subaru BRZ and compliments him on his WRX. Bunta responds to this by saying that he isn't necessarily a big fan of Subaru, but in an area where it snows fairly often, you must have 4-wheel drive, and Subaru knows best how to make those. Before the young girl leaves, she introduces herself as Subaru and warns Bunta about the ghost on the Akina Pass. Next, we see a young man at Ogata Cars asking Ogata to drive Kanata's GT86. Ogata, of course, doesn't let him, but doesn't know what else to do with the car. He and Shun Aiba both agree that it would not feel right to have somebody else drive the GT86. Aiba also mentions being sad because his beloved angel number 7 left, which Ogata scolds him for because he's already in a relationship with Kyoko at this point. Still, Aiba concludes that they must move on and that perhaps Ogata should support other MFG drivers like he did with Kanata. Back at the gas station, Iketani offers his employee a ride up to Mount Akina in his new Fairlady Z. When they arrive at the top, Iketani and Itsuki mention that the street racing culture has ended long ago. Half an hour later, they set off on their way back home, where Iketani tests his modern sporty car and its self-stabilizing function, which makes his friend jealous. Suddenly, a creature resembling a ghost jumps out from behind the guardrail. This is the end of chapter 1. I liked his introduction to the series. I loved seeing the Speedstar boys again. This also made it feel a lot more Initial D-like than MF Ghost ever did. Additionally, seeing Bunta and Akina again felt so nice. Chapter 2, called Horror Iketani Wrecks His Ride, starts off with Iketani and Itsuki in the RZ32 driving away terrified from the creature. Iketani tries to race away from it, but it's catching up to them in the straights, even though they are going over 120 km an hour. This causes him to crash his Z. Itsuki comments that the pride of being the leader of the Akina Speedstars must have disappeared along with his hair. Later, back at the gas station, Subaru arrives in her BRZ. As a regular, she notices that the Fairlady Z is missing, causing her to question Iketani about what happened. After finding out they saw the ghost of Akina, she wants to learn more about where and when they spotted it, since she wants to race the ghost herself. Iketani refuses to give more information about it, thinking that Subaru would not be fast enough, even though she was the junior champion at Akina Kartland and participated in the Gunma Cycle Seminar as a special member of Dream Project. Dream Project was Sena Moriboshi's team run by Keisuke Takahashi during the 4th season of MFG. Disappointed, Subaru turns around and plans to go home, but Kenji stops her to ask for her last name. Subaru reveals that her full name is Subaru Sato. The Speedstars are in extreme shock after hearing this, immediately assuming she must be related to Mako Sato from Impact Blue. The chapter ends with the narrator saying that the story is about to get serious after this. All in all, I found this chapter a little less enjoyable than the first one, mostly because it's a lot of composition dumping. but it's still a solid chapter besides that. We continue off at the gas station for chapter 3, which is called Fumihiro the Attention Seeker.
Initial D. Initial D!
Iketani is in denial that Subaru is related to Mako. He also highly questions if Mako would even still fall in love with him, even though he is balding. We cut to Subaru driving on Akina. When she reaches the top, she finds Bunta again. They talk a little until she asks him if he knows what MFG is. Bunta says that he enjoyed last season's races and was a fan of the young driver from England, referring to Kanata Katagiri. Subaru mentions that Canada was also her #1 pick, saying that he inspired her to become an MFG driver. It's her life goal, she claims. It's also the reason she wants to beat Akina's ghost in a race, believing that it will bring her closer to her goal. Next, we see Fumihiro at MFG HQ making the announcement of an MFG Freshman series. We see Keisuke and Kenta discuss how this is clearly Ryosuke's idea. This freshman series has 3 requirements. The driver must be under 25 years old, the driver must have never passed the normal MFG qualifying, and lastly, the driver must not drive a car with more than 300 horsepower. The young man from chapter 1 is watching this announcement on his phone. With his newfound knowledge of the freshman series, he decides to go to Ogata again and ask him if he'll be his mechanic and boot manager. Ogata agrees and asks the young man what his name is. The young man reveals that his name is Subaru Kudo. I really like the introduction of the MFG Freshman series. This will give the opportunity to have a lot more Initial D-like cars, small budget friendly sports cars. I never really did like the supercars in MF Ghost that much in the first place anyway. They eliminated the driver aspect of the race a little bit in my opinion. Subaru Sato is driving on Akina in search of the race car chasing Ghost at the start of chapter 4, which is called The High Speed Granny vs Subaru. Later we see her at the Gunma Cycle seminar talking to Osamu Yukihira, an instructor for Dream Project. They are talking about Akina's ghost until Yukihira mentions that if Sato manages to defeat the ghost and can prove it with her dashcam footage, he will be alright with letting her participate in the MFG qualifyings with Dream Project's backing. Next, we see a few manga panels of Bunta smoking in front of the Fujiwara tofu store. Later, we see Sato at the top of Akina preparing to do runs until she comes across the ghost and beats it. We also see a Toyota Now reporting that they have seen a sports car and marked it as a target, mentioning that they won't let it get away. Following that, the ghost appears and starts chasing Sato, who accepts the battle and starts accelerating. This chapter introduced a new character that we haven't seen before with Osamu Yukihira. He only appeared in 3 panels for now, but I am very interested to see what Shigeno will do with him. At the moment I am under the impression that he will be Sato's boot manager in the Freshman series. Chapter 5 is called This Ghost is Too Damn Fast, and it starts off with Yukihira and Matsumoto, Dream Project's mechanic, talking about how to best prepare Sato's B or Z for the MFG Freshman series. Matsumoto reveals that they have already decided to send Sato to the series, being angry at Yukihira for telling her crazy stuff which makes her race Akina's ghost. Yukihira apologizes and says he was only being mean to her because he knows what she's really capable of as her coach. He talks about how Sato's biggest flaw is that she can be overconfident, thus he wants to put her in situations where she is pushed to the extreme. Lastly, he reveals that they already know what Akina's ghost really is. Sato is racing Akina's ghost down the mountain, being impressed by how fast it is. She tries to keep herself calm, thinking back on her karting era. Even when the championship was on the line, she never lost. She thinks back on what her great-granddad used to say: "If the pressure's tough, Subaru, you get tougher." She notices how the ghost is smiling and is shocked by it, making her miss her braking point and causing a spin. She barely avoids the guardrail. Disappointed in herself, she decides to leave, crying the whole way home. This is the last chapter we have at the moment of me writing this script. This chapter didn't provide much, but it was good to see Matsumoto again. I have missed Dr. Ueno Mechanic from Project D. I know he appeared in MF Ghost, but he didn't do much there, so I hope he will do a lot more here. I'm also interested in what Akina's ghost could really be, since Yukihara mentioned that they know what it is. I assume some kind of remote control toy controlled from the Toyota Now we saw. Next, I would like to talk about the cars we have seen in the series so far. The first car we see is Sato's B or Z. The car is a 2024 Subaru BRZ STI Sport in the WR Blue Pearl color. It seems to be entirely stock except for a set of unidentified bucket seats and a 4-point harness behind the driver's seat. It has a confirmed output of 240 horsepower. An interesting fact is that Mai Sakurano drove a similar car in the final arc of MF Ghost, that being the Toyota GR86. Which is essentially the same car co-developed by Toyota and Subaru, but with a different front bumper. It also appears that in certain panels of the manga, the BRZ lacks the BRZ and STI badges on the trunk and on the front grille. The second car we are introduced to is Bunta's. It's a 2015 Subaru WRX STI. The car is a Zenki, meaning it's an early pre-facelift model with a chassis code VAB. It is presumably also painted in WR Blue Pearl, as we saw in the artwork Shigeno made for Initial D's 30th anniversary. It is likely equipped with an EJ207, a turbocharged engine. The car's actual output is unknown, but the stock model could produce around 300 horsepower. Lastly, we have Iketani's Fairlady Z. It is a version ST with the chassis code RZ34. The color of the car is still unknown, although it is likely Everest White Pearl. To finish off this video, I would like to mention that me and some other regular editors from the Initial D and MF Ghost Wiki have also now made a Subaru and Subaru Wiki. This is also where all the sources I have used for this and other videos will be listed. This wiki shall be updated with the newest information as soon as possible. We have put a lot of time and effort into creating it, so we hope you can find what you need there. I have been procrastinating this video for way too long. Every time I wanted to start typing the script I thought, nah, let's wait for the next chapter. But then that came out and again I thought, yeah, let's wait for another chapter. So after 5 chapters I decided to just do it. So chances are high a 6th chapter or maybe even a 7th have released by now. But like I said, you can find pages for those on the wiki, so go take a look over there. But don't forget to stick around for the bloopers, cause apparently I can't read the script. Thank you for watching. Self-driving electric cars have replaced internal combustion engines for everyday use. Iketani and Itsuki don't believe it at all, until they see several anecdotes of Back at the gas station, Iketani offers his employee a ride up to the top of Mount Apita. With his newfound knowledge of this he will be alright with letting her participate in the MFG qualifiers with Project D's backing. Later, we see Sato at the top of Akina preparing to do runs until she comes. At the moment, I am under the impression that he will be Sato's boat manager in the freshman series. She thinks back on what her great-granddad used to say. Moshi pressure ga kishiba nara, Subaru, omae wa motto tsuyoku naranda. She thinks back on what her great-granddad used to say. Kono giorno Giovanna ni wa yume ga aru. Golden experience!